Okay, all right. Have no fear. I'm still going to do podcasts, but with my new teaching job, it's going to be very impossible for me, at least in the start of September, maybe October, for me to do it before the Thursday night games. I'm still trying to get used to this routine and everything. So I apologize if I don't get them in the Thursday night games, but podcasts will probably be up on Saturdays. So sorry for the inconvenience. I know I got a few texts wondering where was it, what's going to happen. Don't worry about it. Bottom line, it'll still be up if I have the time to do it. Be up on Saturdays. So what's gonna happen is, I just want to give my quick hot take on the pre-ranking, power ranking thing that I posted in the chat because I didn't have any time to do it then. But here we go. Without further ado, and I want you guys to listen carefully because some of you are still butthurt about what I posted or whatnot. We understand that the waiver wire gems haven't been discovered yet. We understand that there's no injuries and there's no BS. I'm saying right now, there's a certain amount of teams that are already booked for the Super Bowl, like in my opinion. And then there's other teams that need miracles to happen or a lucky break. And that's how I broke it down. So for example, I have myself at 12 right now because let's be honest, guys. My fifth and sixth round pick, which you put high stock into, are out for the season. My number one wideout is not healthy. He could be missing week one. I mean, and I have another guy who's a little questionable, and I don't have starters to place in them because I took a whole bunch of lottery tickets. So, for example, if those lottery tickets do hit, then we're changing something. But as of right now, it's hard to feel confident in a team with a lot of injuries. I mean, we've had some teams that have injuries here and there. One guy gets hurt, but I can't remember a time where three of them, especially top picks, are just really, really hurt. Two of them are done for the year. One of them, you don't know what his injury status is. So, I mean, I'm not. This shows you how I'm not biased at all against any team. I'm putting myself at freaking 12. Anyway, 11 is Allen, and for rightfully so. You saw what happened Thursday night. If you're really banking on three tight ends, kid, I don't know what the hell you're doing. Next, Harsh at 10. I don't even feel like this is necessarily a bad team. I mean, I understand that Yahoo gives him a D, but there is a lot to like about this team. I just think the receiver situation is a little bit concerning on his top receivers is what I'm talking about. However, I think that if Harsh was to make a surprise playoff push, it would come in his running back in the flex department. I'll be 100% honest with you, Harsh. I love your flex wide receivers more than your number 1 and 2 wide receivers. I don't like Hopkins and Adams. I think his numbers will come out really good at season's end, but he's going to be very inconsistent. I think he's going to be like the LeGarrette Blount of wide receivers. He's just going to have a game where nothing happens. He'll get you 7 points, but then the next week it explodes for like 25. Just because like the Packers, he spreads the ball around, and other than Jordy, there's not a lot of consistent options on that offense. As I'm scrolling down here, sorry, I just exited out. Jay at number 9. Now, this is in my division. We already got like a lot of them in the bottom half. The only issue I have with Johnny's team is the running back department. I understand that the two beasts of a receiver, and I'll say it again, I understand you're very, very confident in Leonard Fournette. I think he's a fabulous running back. I think he's a tank. Don't get me wrong. I just think either an injury is going to happen with this guy because he's already hurt, or they're just going to, run him into brick walls all day, and that scares the living hell out of me, to be quite honest. If your team was to make a push, you would need him to step up because I think your wide receivers will be fine. If they hit on the same week, you're in a good position. Don't get me wrong. I just think that situation, and I do think as of right now, it's going to take time for you to figure out your flex situation because you've got a lot of intriguing options, but I don't know if you have any guaranteed options, and that's why I have you at 9 because it's going to take a while for you to figure how you want this team constructed. Morris number 8 is the same reason with Jay. I think Jay and Morris to me are two teams that look exactly the same when I look at it. The only reason why I have Morris just a slight tick ahead of Johnny J Fresh is just basically because of the fact of, give me a minute, I gotta find your team. Sorry about this. Well, the trade you made I think bumped you down. To be honest, I don't remember exactly what it was that you gave up. I mean, you're high on Amendola, and he did get you 13 points, so maybe that continues. But I mean, he's concussed right now. Oh, that's what it is. Antonio Brown, and I do think that you're Jay Ajayi with him, and you got the other running back, which is Devonta Freeman, which is good. But I do think that there is a lottery ticket that you have on your roster that I do think, if an injury happens, could definitely take your team into a playoff push, and that's Jamal Charles. I didn't like this guy before. I liked him before the preseason started. Then when weeks 1 and 2 of the preseason happened, people were saying he might get cut, and then you see this guy and he looks like the best running back on the roster. So just for that, I feel a little bit, just a tad more confident in your options than Johnny's, and that's the reason why I have you right now at 8. Coffey. Now this is a team that after the draft I was very high on, but again, I think this team is something they have to figure a lot of crap out until they make that push. And by default, that's why I have Paul over Rob, because somebody from my division has to win. So you understand that right there. Then we have David. I just feel like this is why I separate. I think the top 4 are going to be the definition of just really, really, really hard to beat over the season. I feel like David just falls just short of that. I like what he did with Alshon Jeffrey and Kelvin Benjamin when healthy, and he's got a stack full of running backs, as David likes to do. And I'm just pulling the history card out here. When David has his strategy, I mean, it usually hits. But when you've got Carlos Hyde, Blunt on the bench, LaShawn McCoy, Perkins I really don't like. I think that was a little But I do think that the combination of this with Aaron Rodgers is going to be a very good, consistent floor team, and that's why I have him at number 5. Lewis for number 4. Now, the reason why this is his best draft that he's ever had, I'll fully admit that right now. The thing that worries me, and why, they could prove me wrong, but I highly doubt it. The thing that worries me with Lewis's team is the Denver receiving combo. And I do think that there's going to be a trade in place for at least one of them. I know one of them is hurt, but it's not even because of injuries or production. It's because I think they can't produce big weeks for you at the same time. If Sanders has a good game, Thomas doesn't. So whenever I do your podcast matchups, Lewis, I'm just going to take the over on 30 combined points for both, because I'm not going to break down, and I'll say over or under. That's just because you have both of them. I do think Gordon and Gurley could actually be kind of serviceable. Fitzgerald is decent, but I know he led the league in catches, but he didn't do anything with those catches. Bryant is good though. I think that this team has a lot of weapons they can use, and they even got James White on the bench, and Tyler Lockett. You never know. I just really like this team, but I mean, pulling a history card out here, there has never been a team in our history to win with 2 wide receivers on the same team. It has never happened. The only team to have won a Super Bowl with 2 players on the same team was at a running back position, and that was my team when I had Reggie Bush and Joique Bell and Noshawn Moreno, Monty Ball, Fred Jackson, and C.J. Spiller, and that gave myself a headache. It's tough to win with 2 people on the same team. I get it, and the only reason why I won was because I had 3 wide receivers in the top 10 that year. So I mean, you really need to bank on all these other guys if this situation is going to work out. I still like the team, but for a championship material, I think it falls just short because of that. All right, the next team that I have right now, this is really hard to call after the Kareem Hunt show, but I did say that the X factor for Brian's team that could take him over the top was Kareem Hunt. This is just a really, really good team. There's nothing else I can say about it. I put Brian and Andre are almost the same now because the Ezekiel Elliott news is retarded. If Ezekiel Elliott was suspended, Andre I think would bump him all the way down to 10, but that guy makes such a difference for the way his team is constructed. The fact that he's now playing the whole season, this could be he risked it and it paid off. One of these 3 teams I think is going to win the Super Bowl. That's what I'm saying. So I just like that. And with Max, I just think this team has a whole bunch of upside, and Tyreek Hill showed that he was more than just a deep threat. I think, granted, it's one game. I understand. Don't get too carried away with it, but that's his wide receiver 3. He's got David Johnson. This team is scary good, and it looks like the champ is on the road to another repeat, possibly. So that's my quick take. All right, now we're going to get into the matchup segment. This is not going to take very long. It's going to be my team against Johnny's team. Flat out, I need a big miracle to happen, especially if Odell Beckham excuse me. Especially if Odell Beckham doesn't play. I mean, there's no way I'm winning this week. However, I wouldn't feel too confident on the other side of the ball. I do think that this is a Johnny victory, but I don't think it's a convincing victory. I do think that this is one of those weeks where somebody else is playing another team, they put up more points than Johnny, and then throw, "And what the fuck? What the fuck, Johnny? Yeah, you had more points. I had more points than you, and it's because you're way naked. Your team is hurt." It might be one of those type of weeks. I don't see a lot of explosive points. If it is a blowout, it's because my team doesn't put up anything, and his probably puts up around, I don't know, 100. I'll say like 110 or something like that. Bottom line, the projections are almost what I have it to be as. I can't feel too confident in it. If Odell Beckham doesn't play, this is a landslide victory. It's not even close. But that's just my take. There's nothing to break down on this one. This is a free space bingo. Again, this division is already looking like it's going to be complete poop. I'm just going down right now, and it's just, I understand two guys played. One of them disappointed very badly, and the other was kind of not really expected, but a huge disappointment indeed. Paul versus Allen. This is not an exciting matchup at all now, but this is just what I'm going to say. Like the 3 tight end set thing, weeks like this can happen, because the tight ends are so reliant on the touchdowns, and if they don't get it, that's 6 points and 4 points. This is why I don't like the way the team is set up. I mean, if you want to prove me wrong, go ahead. It's your team. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But that's the risk you run with that, and it's just, I don't know. And because of that, Kenny Galladay is now your wide receiver number 2. Anyway, let's get into it. Well, Stafford should win against Tom Brady unless he throws a lot of picks. Julio Jones and Jordy Nelson against Tate and Galladay, not even close. Tevin Coleman and Shane Vereen versus Duke Johnson and Robert Kelly. This is going to be a push, which is bad for Allen because his 2 beasts have already went. I'm ending this discussion right now. This is a clear-cut Paul victory. I'll say 105 to 78. All right, finally a take we can actually put a little bit more emphasis and depth on because the Thursday night game did not happen. Let's go with a division matchup between Harsh and David. Let's break it down. Aaron Rodgers against Seattle, Phillip Rivers against Denver. Rodgers wins that because he's at home, and Rivers is going to throw a pick or 2 in this game. That's how I see it. Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins taking on Alshon Jeffrey. Am I seeing Marquise Lee? Okay. Who did you take out? I'm sorry, I don't even know what's going on right now. Alshon Jeffrey and Marquise Lee versus Devontae Adams and DeAndre Hopkins. Okay, let's break it down. Adams against Seattle, I think, is the biggest wild card because I think Seattle's going to key on Jordy Nelson. Now, me personally, I think this is going to be a Randall Cobb game just because I think Seattle is vulnerable over the middle of the field. I think Green Bay is going to have to rely on Mr. Cobb a lot in this one. DeAndre Hopkins against Jacksonville, I don't like that matchup at all. Alshon Jeffrey and Marquise Lee. Jeffrey against Washington, he's going to have to go against Josh Norman. I don't know how they're going to use that man-to-man one-on-one. I do think Zach Ertz feasts in this game because he kills the Redskins like every single year. But this could be a good coming-out party for Alshon Jeffrey. Marquise Lee. I don't really know. I don't have much thought into it. But I'll say that because of the matchups alone, in the wide receiver department, it's going to be close. I'll slightly give it to David just because I think there's more of a possibility. Because I don't like Hopkins and I don't like Lee. But if you ask me who has a better chance to score, it'll be Jeffrey over Adams. Jordan Howard and Crowell taking on LaShawn McCoy and Carlos Hyde. Jordan Howard and Crowell will have fantastic matchups, but LaShawn McCoy goes against the Jets. And I think that alone is just trouble. Big trouble. I don't think Crowell does much of anything, but he'll get you that 11 points. Jordan Howard, I think, can get you 18 points. McCoy can feast for 20 plus, though, so that's the difference in this one, which means Hyde can just get his 10 to 12. So David. Hunter Henry and Greg Olsen. I like Hunter Henry as a sneaky play in this matchup, but I'm going to still have to take Greg Olsen because it's the 49ers. This is a guy you really got. Oh, the PPD game. That's why he's not in there. I forgot. Dalvin Cook and Paul Richardson taking on Kelvin Benjamin and Paul Perkins. Dalvin Cook against New Orleans Saints. If you felt excited about Kareem Hunt, you're going to feel even more excited about Dalvin Cook. I think these two guys are going to be the stud rookie running backs this season, along with Christian McCaffrey, but he's more of that gadgety type role. Dalvin Cook, I think, is going to have a huge game, a very, very big game. Paul Richardson against the Green Bay Packers. I don't know what Seattle is going to do with the two guys on the outside. Bottom line, though, is they finally realized who their guys should be, and they got rid of Jermaine Kearse. Unfortunately, the Jets have him now. But Paul Richardson and Tyler Lockett, they're going to be hard to cover, especially with Baldwin operating over the middle and Graham operating over the middle. Let's look at David's team. You got Benjamin against the Niners. That has potential to be a 2-touchdown game. And then Paul Perkins against Dallas, who I'm not really big on. I don't know what the deciding factor was in this trade, David, for you, but I know it wasn't Paul Perkins. I see him as a throw-in. Believe it or not, this is going to be tough. But I think it might be a draw on this one because I can't predict a Paul Richardson touchdown, but I don't like Perkins. I like Cook, and I like Benjamin, so draw. I'm glad somebody picked up this defense because this is going to be the sleeper defense of this season if they fully stay healthy and they have a good matchup on the road. The Los Angeles Chargers. Good pick. However, there's another team in LA that David has in the Rams who go against Scott Tolzien. I understand you could probably think of big things happening for the Rams defense. I think they get a lot of sacks on him. I don't know if they score any touchdowns though, but I'm not even going to pick a defense in this one. The deciding factor in this matchup is going to be the explosive games between Kelvin Benjamin, LaShawn McCoy, and I think Rodgers will outperform Rivers enough for making David the victor in this one. When it comes down to Harsh's keys of the ball, if he was to do anything, you need a Devontae Adams big game because you've got Aaron Rodgers, and if Aaron Rodgers throws TDs and none of them go to Adams, you're behind the 8 ball by a lot. I think Cook is going to be your highest scorer this week. I think he can drop 20 plus, to be honest. And then it's going to be Cook, Howard, but your wild card is going to be the flexes. If they hit, I think you have a chance. But if Hopkins and Adams can't do their thing, I think this is going to be game over for you. That's my take. Okay. What a debut for Mr. Hunt. And now this is going to be really big problems for Rob Coffey. It's funny because, with the PPD game, Mike Evans was sent to the bench, and somebody else on Brian's team who I cannot name right now. Whatever. I don't care. Anyway, Rob Coffey's team taking on Brian's team. Brian put up 43 points courtesy of Kareem Hunt. There's not really much else to talk about. Le'Veon Bell he does go against the Cleveland Browns. So maybe that could be a big game there. But the way I see it right now, without Mike Evans though, it's going to be tough because you are starting Derrick Henry and Cole Beasley, which I'm not big on. Lamar Miller does suck. So I do think that those three combined might just get you 30 points, which is 10 points each if the way you look at it, but I wouldn't feel confident in that. Cooper against Tennessee will hit. Kirk Cousins will do his thing. Ty Montgomery, don't get me twisted. I had him last year. I like Ty Montgomery. I'm just worried about him playing a full 16 games. I think he's a fabulous running back. Don't get me wrong. I do think he has a very decent role. He's going to be used a lot like when he broke out against the Chicago Bears. Not the playoff game, the one where he first became the running back. It's going to be a lot of dump offs. He's going to get you a lot of points. And Houston against Jacksonville, what isn't there to like about that? The Coffey side of things, Newton can explode. Diggs has some sneaky potential. I don't like Mark Ingram. Colby Fleener, I definitely don't like that. And Danny Woodhead, I don't like that either. If Coffey was to surprise Brian with a victory, it's going to come from Le'Veon Bell, Diggs, and Newton outperforming their projections. And Brian's not doing shit. But, this is hard now because the 43 points. It's a clear-cut victor in Brian, but I do think that this, like I said, this is going to be a very hard team to beat. The big question is, how will he manage this team? Right now, he's off to a good start. And yes, Brian. I told you he was taking that job. I get it. I liked Kareem Hunt. I'd never bashed the guy. I just thought I could get him around later because Ware went in the 10th last year, and our league doesn't value handcuff as much as they used to. That's all I'm saying. So, this was a really interesting matchup here. Unfortunately, two of the guys already played, and they both outperformed their projections. So, both these men are in good spots. We're talking about Max and Morris here. But because of the rain, Eli Manning just got picked up. Whatever. Manning against Matt Ryan. Des Bryant, Terrell Pryor taking on Antonio Brown and Rashard Matthews. Okay, so here's how I'm going to call this one. Matt, I'm not entirely sure. I don't look at everybody's teams. I haven't looked at the PPD. I don't know if you had anybody in this game or you switched around your roster because it changed a lot since the last time I saw it, even when you did the trade. Antonio Brown and Rashard Matthews. Brown is good at Cleveland. He'll be all right. Rashard Matthews is sneaky, but the thing is, we need to know how Tennessee's going to run their playbook. I think this guy, though, a lot of people wrote him off because they drafted Corey Davis. Rashard Matthews, if I'm not mistaken, I think he can be their permanent slot guy, which is why I don't think he has the most upside at the Titans wideouts, but from a week-to-week basis, he might get you 9 to 12. So I do think he will be very, very solid for you. And that's good to have when you have a beast like Antonio Brown, but the thing is, do you have the running backs to back it up? Go to Max's side of the ball. I think Pryor has a big game. I think Des Bryant, it's weird because he got shut down by Janoris Jenkins again. That could happen, but it's weird because I never viewed Janoris Jenkins as a shutdown corner. Time for me to take a victor in this one. I think it's a clear-cut draw because I don't think Matthews will explode, but Brown will do fine. Pryor will do fine. It becomes down between Bryant and Matthews. I don't know what to call here because Bryant's got a bad matchup and Matthews has a good matchup, so tough. David Johnson and Bilal Powell versus Devonta Freeman and Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon will be good for you. I just don't know if it happens in week 1. Devonta Freeman, you already know what you're getting there. With that being said, I think David Johnson against Detroit can get Max close to 20 to 30 points. That's what he did last year. Bilal Powell against the Buffalo Bills. Well, he might be one of the best backs. I mean, if Forte is going to get phased out, like the rumors are saying, Powell's going to get a whole bunch of workload. Now, the thing with Powell, though, is he might get a lot of workload to get him into that 12-point range, which is great out of an RB2, especially when you have a stack full of wideouts. What I don't like is if Forte is still in the picture. But if Powell scores a touchdown, you're looking at 18 points a week. Eric Ebron, for that I take Max. Eric Ebron, Martellus Bennett. This is a really tough one, but I'm going to have to go with Marty Bennett in this one just because of the Seattle. They're very good on the perimeter, but over the middle, I think this can be a big game for both Bennett and Cobb. Tyreek Hill, Adam Thielen. Oh, by the way, yeah, Tyreek Hill hit already, and it looks like this could be bigger things to come. It looks like they have molded him into a full wide receiver role, so congratulations there. And this was a matchup, I'll be 100% honest, I didn't think he would do anything against New England. I thought they were going to take him out, but the unique packages that Andy Reid had in the first half with the 3 tight end sets, I think the guy was just getting way too cute because you saw, they were taking out Kelsey and all these no-name tight ends were starting to catch because Andy Reid knew what was happening. They knew that Belichick was going to game plan for Kelsey. I honestly thought he could take out both. Obviously, they could not. So there you go. Adam Thielen against New Orleans is bad news for you, Morris, because Marvin Jones goes against AZ. And the defenses are good defenses with bad matchups. I'll give the advantage to Morris because they're at home. So I just think, bottom line, you have a 10-point lead on him right now. I don't see any way you lose this matchup. The only way you lose this matchup is by injuries. I just think that this team week in and week out is going to be that team where you look at your schedule and believe it or not, you're going to hate that he's on your schedule. I just think there's a lot of bench depth, there's a lot of upside, there's a lot to love about this team. And now that Tyreek Hill, I mean, granted, I get it, one game, calm down, yada yada yada. I get that. But what I'm getting at here is That guy is his wide receiver 3 with a David Johnson on his roster. If you want to rebuttal that, please do. But I don't see any way this team does not make a strong playoff push. The only thing that stops this is injuries. And guess what? This team's got a lot of depth. I'm sorry, but we don't want to say it, but I'll flat out admit it right now. This is a really good team. It is. If it proves me wrong, it proves me wrong. But I'm sorry. If you don't think he's number 1, I think you need to get your. So that leads us to the last matchup, and this is our official matchup of the week. Now, to be quite fair with you guys, this was probably going to be my number 2 matchup of the week, but because of the Thursday night games already being played, it's 50-50 chance to win. I don't look at the projections that way. I just think that both of these two teams are very solid competitors, and I do think that they are in one of the toughest divisions. So therefore, they have earned the right as matchup of the week, and the fact that Ezekiel Elliott came back. Let's break it down right now. Drew Brees on the road against Minnesota. Russell Wilson on the road against Green Bay. I've got news for you. I'm not huge on any of these guys in this matchup because they're both on the road. I think Minnesota is going to force a few turnovers from Drew Brees. Funny little fact, Dom Capers, for whatever reason, seems to have Russell Wilson's number. It's weird because Dom Capers is not a good defensive coordinator anymore, and the Green Bay defense is not that great. It's nothing to write home about, let's be honest. But Russell Wilson going on the road, I just think that he's healthy now. As long as somebody doesn't step on his ankle, this guy is going to be back to what he was a few seasons ago. I'm going to call a draw in here, meaning that I don't think the quarterback makes a difference in this one. So this is the guy I really didn't want you to trade for, because this guy I do love, but I think he's going to have a bad season because of Luck's health, and that's T.Y. Hilton against the Rams and Crabtree at Tennessee, taking on Fitzgerald and Bryant. I think Lewis's top 2 wide receivers ball out in this one. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say a combined 40 points, Crabtree, I think, could ball out. Hilton, I don't like him, man. I just don't. I love him, but I like him with Luck. Murray and Elliott, Gordon and Gurley. Now, this is a running back matchup. Elliott is back in the picture. Murray, they both have fabulous matchups. The Giants did contain Ezekiel Elliott. I expect the same to happen in this one. I think Elliott gets around 80 yards. He might get 20 receiving yards, but it's a coin flip of a touchdown, though. You know what? I don't know. I take back everything I said. I'll give him 17 projected points. Murray can ball out. I think this is a big game for DeMarco Murray. I think the Tennessee offense is just going to be... This is going to be... The one matchup that I'm really looking forward to a lot is Tennessee and Oakland, because there's a lot of hype going into that matchup. You have a lot of offensive establishments being used. You've got I don't even know if you want to call it exotic smash mouth anymore, but they've got a lot of depth now, and I'm referring to Tennessee. Gordon against Denver. Now, funny thing, I had him last year. The Chargers' game plan was to just abuse the crap out of Melvin Gordon, and believe it or not, Denver is becoming more vulnerable against the run because people are just pounding it down their throats because you can't pass against them. I do think Gordon will be very serviceable for you in this game. That 13, I think he comes close to that. But the one thing that I worry about with him, especially in this matchup, I think you might see a lot of Brandon Oliver on third downs. And I not like Kendrick West in the last game did come down. Like, he's still the featured back, but I just think if LA falls behind, especially in 2-minute warning drills, and when they get in that pass-happy shotgun mode, there's going to be a lot of Brandon Oliver. Gurley is a stud in this game. I'll take a bold take on... It's not even bold, it's the Colts. 2 touchdowns for Gurley. With all that being said, though, I do think that Murray can outproduce Gordon, so I'll give a slight edge by like 5 points to the running back department and Andre. Jimmy Graham at Green Bay, Kyle Rudolph against New Orleans. These are really good matchups, by the way. Tough. It's going to be really, really tough. I think Jimmy Graham might be the number 2 option in Seattle. It's possible that that's the case. Kyle Rudolph, he could be a sneaky touchdown here. I'm going to take the touchdown with Rudolph over Graham. Marshawn Lynch and Ted Ginn, Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. Lynch finally gets the start. Yay. A lot of people don't want him, myself included. But I do think when there is an intriguing matchup, I think he can put running back 2 potential up on the board for you. But this is your X factor. If Marshawn Lynch is to have a good season for you, this is another team that can make a loud playoff push. And then you got Ted Ginn on the road in Minnesota. A lot of people are saying that Xavier Rhodes is going to be on Michael Thomas. That's good news for Ted Ginn if Drew Brees is to air it out. So maybe there's a sneaky touchdown there. I will say that Ted Ginn does hit one deep bomb for a TD. I could see it happening. Marshawn Lynch, I can see him scoring one touchdown maybe. So I'll say a combined 35-40 maybe. So now, like I said, Lewis, over or under for the Chargers, or excuse me, the Denver Broncos receivers at the Chargers. I'm going to take the under on this one. I think the Chargers have probably the most underrated and if not the best secondary. It really ticks me off that everybody's buying the hype now because I was on this hype for a long time ago. I'm going to take the under, man. They really contained them last year. I do think that one of them will find pay dirt for you, but the other one's going to be completely taken out. I'll say that Emmanuel Sanders has 4 catches for 40 yards and a TD, whereas Demaryius Thomas could be really like, or one of them, I don't know. You have both of them, so it's over or under every week for you. Oh, man, you guys had a streaming defensive option here. I won't say who gets the most turnovers in this one, because you've got a rookie quarterback in Mike Glennon, which is pretty much the same thing. Wow, time for me to pick a winner. This is going to be tough. The week 1 winner is going to be decided based on that flex department. I think that's where it comes down to, because if you recap, draw between the quarterbacks, I give Lewis the wide receiver advantage. The running back is a slight edge to Andre. The tight end goes to Lewis, but I do like Andre's flexes a lot better than Lewis's, and I think that can make the difference. So by a very close victory, I'm going to say 131 for Andre and Lewis at 127. That's my prediction.